All right, we're going to go back to the questions in just a minute, but now we'd like to welcome Karen from the Seneca Park Zoo to the show. Hi, Karen. How you doing?
Karen.
Very good, thank you.
So it looks like you got hands full with our guest tonight. Who is this?
Oh, this is Bubba, and Bubba is our cane toad. They're also known as a marine toad and a giant neotropical toad.
Neotropical.
A giant neotropical toad.
Giant neotropical. Cool.
Okay, now talking about giant, he's really a big toad. Is he full grown?
He is actually not full grown. So these guys can actually grow to be around the size of a dinner plate, which is around 10 inches long. In fact, these guys are one of the largest toads in the world. The largest one on record that we know of was actually 6 pounds and was 15 inches long.
Holy cow, that's big.
Yeah, very big.
So where do these cane toads come from?
Originally, they're found in Mexico, Central America, and South America. However, they have been introduced to a lot of tropical and island countries, including Hawaii, Puerto Rico, Northern Australia, and even in Florida as well.
No kidding.
Why were they introduced?
They were introduced in the hopes that they would actually control some pests that were hurting agricultural plants.
Gotcha.
So for example, in Northern Australia, cane toads were introduced there in the hopes that they would eat a cane beetle. Now cane beetles, they like to eat sugar cane, and oftentimes they eat them to the point that they kill the plant.
Right.
So of course farmers are not going to like that. So they introduced these guys in the hopes that they would eat them all.
And?
Unfortunately, that didn't really work out so well.
They've had problems with the other species
with other species as well. So the problem is these guys, they like to spend time in the ground, on the ground. They prefer to just walk around on the ground.
Right.
The cane beetle, on the other hand, likes to spend his time high up on the sugar cane plant. So they didn't come into contact that much. Instead,
He's too big to go up high.
Yeah, it's a little bit chubby. So these guys, they actually instead were eating a bunch of the native species in Northern Australia.
Oh, good.
So this is actually causing a really big problem for a lot of the native species there, and especially the frogs.
So why are these guys so dangerous? Because cane, you'd think a nice, sweet animal, but...
Yeah. Well, he is a really sweet toad, but unfortunately, these guys do have a very voracious appetite.
All right.
They will pretty much eat anything that moves and fits inside of their mouth.
Cool.
Okay, we're
So,
Right. Yeah.
so we're safe here, no worries. But also because of that, you combine the fact that these guys can get to be so big that you have a toad that will go after almost any small to medium-sized animal.
Right.
Also, there are very few animals in Australia that will actually eat them because these guys have a very, very toxic poison.
Hence the reason of the gloves?
And also these guys are very sensitive to anything that goes through their skin, similar to frogs. So to protect me and also to protect the toad as well.
Right.
But these are really, really toxic poison that oozes out of these parotoid glands behind their eye and all along their back.
Wow.
And
Right
so
where your
a lot of
thumbs are.
so a lot of animals would not want to eat that poisonous toad.
Well, they wouldn't know though, right? Not at first. They'd go and then next thing you know they're dead.
Because these guys have very strong poison. It's actually so strong they could kill or at least seriously sick in any size animal.
No kidding.
So it's very potent. The only animals that can actually eat them over there are some snakes. Some snakes actually have immunity to their poison.
Okay.
Some birds have actually figured out that if they flip the toad over, they can actually eat from the belly because the belly doesn't have the poison glands on there.
Interesting.
But only very few animals have figured that out.
Right.
So what can we do to help prevent an animal from becoming an invasive species in the first place?
Right. So we may not have much control over what agricultural animals get introduced. For example, in Northern Australia, one of the things I mentioned earlier, these guys have a large population number. It's around 2 billion right now. So sometimes we don't have much control over which agricultural animals get introduced for those reasons. However, a lot do get introduced via the pet trade. And we do have control over the pet trade. So a lot of animals do get released by their owners because they can no longer take care of them. For example, in the Everglades National Park in Florida, the Burmese python is actually a major invasive species right now because an owner thought that they could take care of that snake, but it turns out that snake can live a very long time, can get very big, and so they released them. And now they're a very invasive species over there, eating a lot of the native species. In addition, there are a lot of hurricanes that go through that area in Florida, so they sometimes accidentally get released that way via the hurricanes.
Well, red-eared sliders, I have turtles in my classroom, red-eared sliders, and they're invasive as well. So
yeah, red-eared sliders are invasive as well, right? So one of the ways that we can help with this issue is do your research ahead of time. Even though when you go to the pet store, you might see a lot of animals that look really cute and small when you first see them, but most of the time they're not going to look like that for very long.
They do grow.
Yeah, they do
grow.
grow.
So you
a lot
mentioned
of
that. How
movement.
long is Bubba going to live, or how long do cane turtles live, or toads?
So cane toads, they can live to be around 10 years in the natural environment, but in
Wow.
human care, they can actually live to be around 20.
That's
So
a
you
long
still
time
got quite a
have
ways
that
to go,
kind of-
right? Yeah.
Sure. So if you get that for your kid, well, we don't want you to get that for a kid.
No.
They'll live for a
No.
long time.
Oh, Karen, thank you very much for coming
Yeah,
and
thank you so
introducing
much.
us to Bubba.
Oh, yeah.
And if you want to know more about this animal and others like it, go to our website, homeworkhotline.org, and click on videos. Stay right there. We'll be back in a second.